Welcome to Ask the Professor, presented by Fountain Pen Geeks. My name is Eric Schneider, and with us today is Professor Tarquin Danglebury.
Tarquin!
Okay. Tarquin, how are you today?
There you are. I'm doing excellent, sir. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Excellent to see you again, sir.
Yes,
I see you have Lord Windermere with you.
Yes, Lord Windermere is on my shoulder. He always enjoys that.
He's just going to hang out with us, is he?
He is going to hang out, yes.
Or
Maybe you'll even answer a
Is he
question.
actually, I was going to say, is he whispering the answers to the questions?
Yes. When I don't know.
You're just his puppet, aren't you, sir?
Yes, actually I am. His hand is stuck in me
that's
somewhere, but he's actually moving me.
Let's just get right to it then and see how
Yes,
Lord does. Our first question today is from Evelyn of Toronto.
Yes.
2 questions related. I'll read them both. Do some inks truly flow better than others? Aren't all inks created equal in the flow department?
Yes, I would say in this case all inks are created equally, but some inks are more equal than others, to quote a well-known story about animals, which can also apply to inks, of course. You see, I think the first question we should ask, following Marcus Aurelius, talking about principles, what is an ink? An ink is water, some type of dye, a substance that will make sure that the dye will actually stick to the paper once the water dries up. And usually there's a fungicide in there, because inks can actually get moldy and quite disgusting. Now, knowing this, we understand why some inks, such as India inks, are not really suited for use in fountain pens. The reason being that they do not contain dyes, which is pretty much pigment smashed to very, very, very tiny bits and then thrown in the ink and solved. But it contains pigment particles, which are much larger. These will clog up a feed like there's no tomorrow. So that's an ink that would not give any flow in a fountain pen. Now, some inks do indeed give you a better flow than others. Some inks have excellent properties, and other inks have not so excellent properties. It's almost like with people, you see. Some people are very nice, and other people are not. Some inks will like pen A, and other inks will not like pen A. And in fact, some ink that may be good in pen A may not be good at all in pen B. So it's a very tight interaction, a sort of symbiotic nature, I would say, between fountain pens and the inks you use. And sometimes it will work out well, and sometimes it will not.
So the answer is yes, there is a significant difference between flow of different inks.
That's the gist, yes.
Okay. And the only way to know is to either get opinions from others who have used the ink, but it could be completely different for you, but depending on the pen you're going to put it in.
So the only sensible thing to do is get the ink, or at least a sample, ask someone for a sample, purchase a sample somewhere, and
try it.
Make sure you can actually try it out. And that's the only way to find out whether your ink will flow well in that specific pen you're using. Yes.
But it's not like an old wives' tale. It is true that there is different flow rates for different inks in different
It is
pens.
absolutely true. And then, of course, some inks are sold as being, as possessing lubrication. They will not actually contain grease. I mean, there's not someone in the factory pouring buckets of grease in the fountain pen ink. That will not work at all, you see. But it will flow very smoothly. So if you buy an ink like that, then you have a pen that may be a bit dry. Sometimes it happens. Then you could try lubricated ink, for example. So yes, absolutely.
Are we talking about lubrication or viscosity?
Now, in this case, we're talking about what is advertised as lubrication.
Lubrication.
Yes.
Okay. Then we'll just go on to the next question there.
I would say so, yes.
Because the last question was, is there a difference? And the answer is yes.
Is there a difference? Yes.
And the next question comes from Brian in Wisconsin. Is it Lamy or is it Lamy?
Yes, I see. Let me say this about that. It's Lamy.
It's Lamy.
Yes. It's a German brand, you see.
It's a German brand, and if we were in Germany right this very moment...
At this very moment...
we'd be saying Lamy, and everyone around us would be saying Lamy.
Yes. Now, if the 2 vowels there would be interchanged, then it would be Luma.
Luma.
But fortunately, they're not. So
it
is
Luma or Lima?
Then it would be, in German, it would be Luma.
Ah, okay. because it's
Yes.
a German brand. We're going to speak German. So just so everyone knows, so Brian knows the answer to
Yes,
this
Brian
question.
knows. Now he knows.
Officially, it is
Fine.
Lamy. But
I
of
mean,
course,
I think
everybody
I've
knows
run
what you're talking
into
about.
Brian. I've run into Brian at least 7 separate occasions. Every time he asks, "Is it Lamy or Lamy?" I mean, it's every bloody
But,
time.
he
So
just
now,
wants,
Brian,
apparently, he just wants everyone else to know too. So,
yes, well, that's very good. I appreciate the thought. Yes,
so it's Lamy, and we can move on
yes, absolutely.
to the next question, which is a long question.
Oh,
It's
dear.
from Philip in California.
yes,
I need to read 1 or 2 sentences to get to the question.
yeah.
I've never spent more than $30 on a fountain pen, and I think $30 is a lot for a pen. I've never used a high-end pen, and I don't know whether they're worth the prices. Why are some fountain pens, in my opinion, so very, very expensive? That's a good question. Excellent
That's
question.
a very good question. That's an excellent question.
You have the floor,
Yeah.
sir.
The answer is precious resin. That's the answer. That is
But of
why
course,
some pens
moving on.
are no. I can say a bit more about that. Why are, for example, some cars much more expensive than others? Well, some may have a somewhat more powerful motor. You could sort of convert this to fountain pen world and say some pens have a gold nib. Now, I seem to remember that in a previous episode we've already talked about the merits or unmerits of gold nibs. But the thing is that gold is expensive, whether you like it or not. Whether you think a gold nib is better than steel nib or not, it doesn't really matter. Gold, quite simply, is expensive, so you'll pay for that. It will be charged to you. Now, some pens are made of materials that are quite simply more expensive than others. If you buy a plastic pen, that's going to be cheaper than a pen made of precious resin. Because, actually, if most people would not know this, but precious resin is plastic.
Thank
It's
you.
just the same thing. But let's not go into that right now. I
But
mean,
it's,
there are other
it's a
materials.
very fine plastic.
It's a very, very refined, fine, nice plastic. And everyone should enjoy the plastic if he wants to. I don't really care. Now, some materials are a bit more expensive. Celluloid is more expensive. It is more expensive than plastic. So if a pen is made of celluloid, you're going to pay more for that pen. It's that simple. And then, of course, there is exclusivity. If there are, let's say, 10 specific pens of that model in the world, because it's a limited edition, you're going to pay more. Is it worth $1,000? Probably not. But if you're willing to pay that for the pen, then the pen is worth $1,000 to you.
I imagine if they're going to make, for instance, a limited edition of 10 and set a price and they sell all 10, then it was definitely worth the price because they found
Exactly.
10 buyers.
Exactly.
So what you're
Yeah.
saying, sir, is its materials
Yes.
probably has quite a bit to do with craftsmanship and quality control
Absolutely.
and exclusivity, which
Yes.
we could call either being a limited number of these pens or even marketing. In the case of
Yes,
precious
marketing.
resin, I mean, precious resin is plastic, but
I do.
and in case anyone doesn't know that, we're talking about Mont Blanc. They have
I didn't say it. Good.
they've done such an excellent job with marketing
Yeah,
that
they have.
their plastic precious resin pens demand top dollar.
Exactly.
Do you, sir, own a Mont Blanc of any kind?
No, but Lord Windermere does.
And does he happen to like it, and does he think it was worth the price? And I don't mean to make him admit anything.
Windy, I have to ask you this because the gentleman over there, look at the gentleman. See the gentleman here?
Oh, Lordy.
Do you at all like your pen? Yes, he likes it.
All right.
He likes it.
So
Yeah,
for
he likes it
Lord
quite a lot.
Windermere, it was worth the price. And
For Lord Windermere, it was indeed.
but
worth
I
the price,
guess
wasn't it?
perhaps
Yes, it was. Yes.
perhaps we're getting off topic. The
Yeah,
question
maybe.
really was, why are some so expensive?
Yes,
and
indeed.
I think that has been answered.
Yes, so do I.
I mean, if I can just mention one other pen maker.
Oh yes, go ahead. I've got I've got about 20 minutes.
You
so,
must
yes.
be familiar with the pens made by Jack Rowe.
Yes.
Now, see, those are works of art, and they're made with amazing materials that are just the raw materials themselves are expensive in my mind. And so you
Absolutely.
take those very, very expensive raw materials and form them into a work of art that you call a fountain pen.
Yes.
And obviously, the price has to be high. Shall we go to the next question, sir?
Well, yes, why not? Yes, but this was an excellent example, in fact, because this is a gentleman. I know him. I've known him for quite a long time. Jackie Boy. I was calling him Jackie Boy. He makes excellent fountain pens. He
They're
makes
beautiful.
excellent fountain pens because he is such a wonderful craftsman. And that is,
Right,
I
they
do
are-
believe it is fair to say that a pen like that will command more money. That's just the way it is. Yes.
Exactly. Our last question for today,
Yes.
sir, Comes from Janet in New Mexico. And
Yes.
Janet asks, is there any truth to the rumor that men with large hands have large... Yes, it says pens. Large...
Pen, yes.
Is there any truth to the rumor that men with large hands have large pens?
I guess it depends a little bit on whether Janet cares about how big a man's pen is. But in general, I would say that, yes, it's true.
It's true.
It is true to the extent that people with large hands will quite simply enjoy using a large pen. I mean, it would look a bit odd if you were to have large hands and you would have a very small pen. I think everything would look out of proportion, and that I think is a very disturbing thing. So, I mean, it's like a sort of divine proportion in the universe, and that is quite severely disrupted when people with large hands use small pens, and the other way around too. If men or women, I don't really care, or both, if they have small hands and they use a large pen, that looks odd too. At least to me it does.
So
I would say,
really, you're going aesthetics on this. It's just
Yes.
an aesthetic thing. It's not that in a large hand, a large pen is more comfortable than a small pen, and with small hand, a large pen is less comfortable than a small pen.
well, yes, obviously. But I mean,
that's
I
the
was
obvious
saying
part.
it looks out of proportion, and then you didn't let me finish. I was going to say that, but you interrupted me.
Oh, all right.
Now, the thing is that once you start to write with a pen that is not your size, it will feel odd. And obviously, that will not be a very pleasant writing experience. So it is a very good idea, if you have large hands, to use a pen that is large. How large depends on you. That depends on the size of your hands, you see.
Indeed. So
Yeah.
the answer to Janet's question is yes.
Yes, it is also true, by the way, that men with large hands wear large gloves.
That would be true.
That is true. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the large gloves probably fit better.
Yes, exactly.
Much like a large pen fits better.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Thank you
That's
very
the paradox.
much, Professor. As always, it has been
Yeah.
my pleasure to speak with you today, and I hope
Yes,
that
I
you'll
know.
come back and do this again with me soon.
Absolutely, sir. I always enjoy this tremendously, too.
Give my regards to Lord Windermere, please.
Yes. He says goodbye, too.
Goodbye, Lordy. Until next time.
Indulge.